Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Philadelphia fans, we're cut from a different cloth. Born into a brotherhood and bonded to our team for life. We believe anything is possible because we've witnessed the impossible. While we may be from different neighborhoods, come Sunday, we are one, and we will be heard. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Good morning, NFC East, everybody. I look a little more awake today than I did yesterday, telling the Shields, maybe because I actually did get 8 hours of sleep, although it wasn't in a row. I will say that. But happy Tuesday, everybody. What's going on, Tone?
Hey, man. Happy Tuesday. Made it to another day of Good Morning NFC East. You know, you and I were talking behind the scenes, and, you know, you asked how many teams in this NFC East could make the playoffs. And it just shows you the fact that we're having this conversation. The NFC East has come a long way, Jeff.
Oh, it has. And that's the thing, right? And right now, all four teams are in. If the season ended today, it clearly doesn't, but we're 2/3 of the way in, Tone. We're 12 weeks in, there's 18 weeks. All four are in. And, you know, everybody gets mad when you mention, oh, well, you know, I get tired of the season ended today. Well, no, it doesn't, but the Washington Commanders, the New York Giants, the Dallas Cowboys, and the Philadelphia Eagles have all put themselves in position to make the postseason. The Eagles can actually clinch a playoff berth this week, believe it or not. It's crazy to think about it. They need a couple things to happen, but they can clinch a playoff berth this week. And if not this week, definitely next week. That's just how everything's set up right now. But I'm looking at this as, you're right, this is a really good division. It's the best division in football. Everybody's good. Everybody is 2 games over 500 right now. And yet that will change because they're going to be playing each other over the next couple weeks starting this week. But overall, Tone, it's hard to say the Eagles don't play anybody, the Cowboys don't play anybody, the Giants don't play anybody, and the Commanders don't play anybody when they're showing that they are beating the somebodies in this league.
Right. You know, unfortunately, the somebodies in this league are in short supply, but you're right. The NFC East right now is the most productive division in football right now. And the NFC East is forced to beat up on each other. So one's to say the NFC East is going up against the best competition most of the time, you know, by record standards. You know, there have been so many divisions, so many teams in the NFL that have been a disappointment, like the Rams. They've been a disappointment. The Cardinals, they've just been disappointing. When you think about the AFC West, the Broncos, the Raiders, there are several teams who were thought to be one of the top tier teams in the NFL, and they've just not really lived up to expectations, whereas though teams like the Philadelphia Eagles have exceeded expectations. The Commanders, I think they're kind of on par with what I thought they would be. I thought they'd be a little bit better, if I'm being completely honest with you. The Giants, they've exceeded our expectations. I think the Cowboys are on par with what I thought they'd be as well. So, you know, there are just several teams who are playing above their means, and there are just teams who are just, you know, playing below the mean.
It's funny, right, how Eagles fans and Cowboys fans have been going back and forth over, you know, are the Eagles really that good or the Cowboys really that good? And I think people need to sit back and kind of get off the bird app for a bit and be realistic here. You can honestly make an argument the Eagles and Cowboys are 2 of the top 4 teams in the NFL. And that's just how good right now both are playing. Like Dallas, I think, has been playing incredible. since Dak Prescott came back. And I'm not saying that's because of Dak Prescott, but I started getting the belief that the Cowboys were going to be really good when they were winning games with Cooper Rush. And you saw their offensive line wasn't as bad as we thought it was going to be earlier in the season. And their defense is definitely phenomenal when they have a lead. Now, Dallas they've had their hiccups. I mean, everybody does at this point in the year. But when you look at that team and just how they're presented, they're going to give anybody a challenge. So what does that say about the Eagles when they beat that team? I don't want to hear they had a backup quarterback, because that backup quarterback was undefeated before they played the Eagles. What does this say about how good the Eagles are?
I mean, it says a lot. Like you said, they beat the Cowboys. They even beat the Vikings, the other top team in the NFC. So they're beating the top teams that are in their conference. You have to put the Philadelphia Eagles as being one of the best teams in the conference. And sure, they haven't ran up against the Chiefs yet. They haven't run up against the Bills. Sure, but they're not going to unless they get to the big dance. So you have to compare them to the people that's in their room. You have to compare them to their peers. And that's exactly what's going on right now. So, like I said, this NFC East, they've exceeded expectations. But, is it sustainable, right? Has the NFC East done it in a way that's conducive to long-term success? That's my question for you right now. Is the NFC East, is their success right now sustainable over a multi-year period? Is the NFC East really back, or is this just a one-off?
Well, I will say this. This division does benefit from playing the AFC South and the NFC North this year. I think a lot of people know how I feel about the NFC North. I think the NFC North doesn't get enough talk about how bad they are. It's been bad every year. There's always a team that seems to win the NFC North by multiple games. Usually it's the Packers. Some years it's the 49ers. But the Bears are always bad. The Lions are always bad. As much as people make fun of the Commanders, when are they always like perennially at the bottom? And when they are at the bottom, what is that? 7 wins? So I look at that as, okay, the NFC North, they stink. The NFC East should take advantage of that. The AFC South always stinks. Like, Tennessee's a good team, but I feel like you can't take them seriously because the Texans are in that division. The Colts just never live up to expectations, no matter what they try to do. The Jaguars are on the rise, but again, they're 4-7. I mean, it's going to take a year or two for Doug Peterson to get that thing on track, but he can win the division sooner rather than later because the AFC South stinks. So you got to take that into account.
Yeah, definitely.
But look at the Eagles, though. I know I'm ranting on you.
No, you're good. You're good. Do your thing.
But look at the Eagles. I think they're built for long-term success. They have a franchise quarterback. The Cowboys seem to be in every year. Whether they can win a playoff game or not, or go to a Super Bowl, is we all know the end result. But they're good enough to be in every year. The Giants, they got some decisions to make this offseason, but they got the coaching staff. I think that's key. And the front office. Washington, doesn't it feel like they have a ceiling?
Yes, right now because of their quarterback position, most definitely. But you said something interesting. The Giants, yes, they have to make a few decisions this offseason as well. But you can't take that away from the Eagles either. The Eagles have to make a lot of decisions this offseason. They have to make a decision on Jalen Hurts' contract. They have to make a decision on multiple players that are on one-year deals, right? So is it fair to say that the Eagles still have a lot of work cut out for them? They still have a long way to go to make this sustainable?
I think they know what players they're going to keep. I think they're going to do whatever they can to keep James Bradbury. If we want to be quite honest. I mean, look how good Darius Slay's been this year. Look how good that defense has been this year. Where Jonathan Gann gets a head coaching job or not, I think you have to keep guys like James Bradbury around. So I think that's look, it's way too early to be talking about the offseason, but I think that's a guy you got to get signed ASAP. And it's weird, right? They haven't had any in-season deals they normally do, which I think players know their worth. But you talk about Jalen Hurts getting contract extension. I think that's all said and done, to be honest with you. I mean, he's a franchise quarterback. He's a top 5 quarterback in this league this year. That's a no-brainer to me. But when you're right, though, they do have a lot of decisions to make in terms of their free agents and what players they want to keep, what players they don't want to keep. But the two I'm looking at right now for long-term success, sign Jalen Hurts, which I think they're going to do. And I think James Bradbury is the other one that it needs to be done.
So James Bradbury is someone you would bring back.
Absolutely.
Is there anyone else that you've considered, or do you think Harry Roseman has his eye on in terms of bringing them back? Who are the core guys who believe is important to the long-term success? Who do you think?
I think they bring Javon Hargrave back. I think he's one that you have to bring back. The decisions are going to be the veterans, the guys that have been here 10 years. Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox. I don't know if Fletcher Cox will be back on this team next year. He's getting paid a lot of money to basically be I don't want to call
it's
him
okay
average.
to say it.
I know. I don't want to call him average, but
no,
that's pretty much what
that's
he
the
is.
exact word that I was thinking, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, he's not bad. He's not bad, and he does make plays, but I think because we're so used to Fletcher Cox being Fletcher Cox.
Yeah, I think it's the money, really. Let's be totally frank about it.
Yeah.
The money isn't equating with the production, especially since he's essentially a rotational guy with Ndamukong Suh and Hargrave and Milton Williams and all those guys, right? At best right now, he's a rotational guy, and that's okay. He's been in the league, and he's been in the league for 10+ years. It happens. You decline. You need to make the necessary decisions to secure your future, but also make your football future as comfortable as possible. So maybe he's not a bona fide starter anymore. He's a rotational guy at this point in his career, and that's okay. But the money has to reflect that, and I think that's where the disconnect comes in with.
I think he's still a starter. I just don't think he's a $14 million a year starter. If that makes sense, I think
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, another guy too. They're gonna have to make a decision on TJ Edwards because Edwards has been really good, like Pro Bowl level good this year. But you got Nakobe Dean waiting in the wings. Do you want to sign TJ Edwards to a long-term deal? Kaiser White's another one. I think Kaiser White does come back, but
I actually think it's the opposite. I think they actually keep TJ. They move him from Kaiser and let Nakobe take over that Kaiser role, right? And allow him to roam in pass coverage.
Yeah, I mean, Nakobe Dean, it's funny. Like, you'll hear about him because of how well TJ Edwards is playing. I think Nakobe Dean would start on a lot of defenses right now. It's just the Eagles are really deep at the linebacker position. By the way, that's crazy to even say with a straight face. The Eagles are really deep at the linebacker position, but they're in really good shape there. But you are right. There's a lot of decisions long-term they have to make in terms of not just winning a Super Bowl in 2023 if they want to do that, but also just kind of keeping the core together. They have a lot of nice young pieces here. Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown. Miles Sanders is another one. I don't know what you do with that because he's a top 5 running back this year, and he should get paid like he's worth.
I think the Miles Sanders contract, obviously the Jalen Hurts one is one of the more complex, but I think the Miles Sanders contract comes a close second in terms of just being a head scratcher. You don't know what to do with him because he's actually being more productive than he's ever been on the ground. He has 900 yards on the season. He has that. He's never really eclipsed that, throughout his career. Granted, he's never played a full season because of his health, but Miles Sanders is on a career pace right now. He already has a career number of touchdowns. He's on a career pace as far as yards. His carries are about the same. His yards per carry is about the same. He's averaging 5 yards a carry. Miles Sanders is one, right? And he's one of the unique running backs that really optimizes this. Because you wouldn't consider Miles Sanders a bell cow. He's typically out there first down, second down, depending on the third down situations out there. But for the most part, he's out there first and second down. And he's splitting carries with Kenny Gainwell and Boston Scott. So it's like, guys like that, they have averaged 4 yards per carry behind his offensive line, but you clearly see the distance that Miles Sanders has on guys like that, and you see Miles Sanders' value. It's interesting. You see what a Miles Sanders looks like when he's highly motivated because he's looking for a contract. He's looking for something long term. It's crazy how this was always in him. It was just a matter of the proper motivation. How should the Eagles feel about that, right? Granted, it's been health
That's
mainly for
everybody,
him,
though.
but
That,
he's been really productive this year.
that's everybody, though. And the thing is, I've been beating the drum how good Miles Sanders is for years. He's just been hurt a lot. And, yeah, it's nagging him. But again, I don't think people realize how often running backs get hurt. Like, Derrick Henry all of a sudden has injuries every week. It's called breakdown. And Derrick Henry's what, 29 now? It's Nick Chubb battles injuries every week. You just don't hear about him because Nick Chubb's always on the field. Sanders always seemed to have an injury that would keep him out. But in terms of yards per touch, it's Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, Miles Sanders. That's top 5 money. And I don't know if he gets paid top 5 money on this market. If I'm the Eagles, I would try to give him a 2-3 year deal and say, look, dude, this is what we think you're worth. We think you're worth a lot of money up front. Yeah, take it or leave. Because this is a big free agent running back class, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, it's Saquon Barkley, it's Josh Jacobs. I mean, there's just 2 guys off the top of my head. There's at least 10 of them. So I think what would frustrate me is, Tone, and I know Giants fans are feeling this way too. You move on from the guy you got, who's pretty good. Giants have Saquon Barkley, and you go sign another guy. I think that would frustrate me more than anything else.
Yeah, I would hate for them to let Miles walk and then sign someone to free agency. That would bother me as well. I would much rather you let Miles walk and then draft a guy. That tells me you're trying to get cheaper at the position, I guess you'll say.
Or you can have your cake and eat it too and sign him and draft the guy.
Yeah. It all goes back to how much money they want to dedicate to that position. And we all know Harry Roseman, that's not really his style, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you're paying Dallas Goedert now. I mean, you got to worry about the backup tight end spot if you really want to go that route. Sooner or later, Devonta Smith's going to get paid. People can.
I'll be honest with you. I'm not sure if it's a strong chance it might not be here. It's possible.
See, I disagree. I think he's been good.
No. This has nothing to do with him. I think because it's all, in my opinion,
because of the dynamics.
The dynamic of the Hurts contract, and you're paying AJ $100 million right now, and who knows if AJ is here. Who knows if AJ gets an extension beyond his current contract, right? You never know.
Probably will at some point. I mean, you would have to think after year 2. I know he's paid till what, like 2026, 2027, but you have to think he's going to get paid more too. But you're right. I feel like, though, not like Jalen Hurts needs much to be happy here, but I feel like to keep Jalen in his comfort zone, you sign Devonta Smith. I feel like that's going to be one of those guys where you just go, yeah, you know what? You guys are bros. You guys know each other. And look, I will say this. The Eagles have a lot of stars on this team, but they're going to have to keep hitting on draft picks like they did this year if they want to keep where they are, 10-1.
Especially if they're going to pay Jalen Hurts, right? And that's the crux of the whole situation, right? His contract. You pay a guy because right now, let's be honest, the Eagles are probably going to offer him something similar to what Kyler Murray got. Something similar. That's the floor, if you ask me.
And you know what's crazy? In 3-4 years, we're going to say Jalen Hurts is underpaid because that's just the way quarterbacks work.
Yeah, I mean, that Carson Wentz contract from before is looking like a steal right now. So,
you know what the best part about this is? Like, we all know the 2020 quarterback class is good, and I've been hyping this up for years. Joe Burrow is going to get paid a lot of money. Justin Herbert's going to get paid a lot of money. Tua Tagovailoa is going to get paid a lot of money. And Jalen Hurts is going to get paid a lot of money. They're all studs. They're all good. But doesn't it feel like Burrow and Herbert are going to make more because they've done it longer than Tua and Jalen?
Yeah, it's because what's going to happen is, especially with Tua, it's going to be a health issue with him. Can you stay healthy for the duration of the contract? For Jalen Hurts, it's a combination of health, sustained success. Can you improve as a passer? Can you carry guys, right? Can you continue to grow?
I mean,
I think Jalen Hurts has shown exactly right. I think Jalen Hurts has shown a propensity to grow and exceed expectations. We've seen the jump he's made from year 1 to year 2 to year 3. He's constantly gotten better. So who's to say he can't continue to get better? The kid's only 24. Same thing with Tua. I'm sure he's going to get better as well. But for those guys, I think teams are going to be hesitant to give those guys the bigger deals because of their play style and because of Tua's health history, right? Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, those are your prototypical drop back guys. They're going to stay in the pocket. You know where they're going to be. They have those they have those uncanny arms, those arms that you can't deny, right? So it's going to be interesting when all these guys get paid because their contracts are all going to happen around the same time, and that's going to be like the new wave of contracts for quarterbacks.
I don't want to interrupt you, quick tone, but
You're good.
Doesn't it feel like Jalen has to go first? Like if Jalen gets,
I hope he does. I hope he gets paid first.
Exactly. I hope he does. It feels like the order's going to be Jalen to Herbert, Burrow. I feel like Burrow's going to make the most out of all.
Yeah. I mean, he's been to a Super Bowl. He has probably the most, the most leverage, right?
If you want my honest opinion, if you want to start a franchise of any of the four, and this is even counting Jalen Hurts, by the way, because I love Jalen Hurts. Give me Justin Herbert.
Herbert. See, I know you're just a Herbert guy, and me, I still have my reservations about him, but that's another conversation for another day.
Yeah. We got plenty of shows to go on this, and plenty of all
definitely. But behind the scenes, we have our guy Rob Ellis in the virtual green room, the host, the lead, the head guy in charge in Sports Take. Man, he directs traffic. He handles those electric personalities with Derek Gunn and Bear Brooks. The guy does an amazing job at that. So I'm really excited to have Rob Ellis on the show today. Jeff, any final words before we hit this break?
I'm always excited to talk to Rob. I'm glad he was able to come on today. We're gonna have some fun talking as we get to the final third of the season here. I can't believe it, Tone. We're going to have December football come Thursday. It's gonna be awesome.
Hey, listen, man. The Philadelphia Eagles are 10-1. Hopefully, it goes beyond December. You guys are locked in on Good Morning NFC East. He's Jeff Kerr. I'm your guy, Tone. This is the second. Next up, we have our guy Rob Ellis. Keep it locked, you guys. You do not want to miss this.
Philadelphia fans were cut from a different cloth. Born into a brotherhood and bonded to our team for life. We believe anything is possible because we've witnessed the impossible. While we may be from different neighborhoods, come Sunday, we are one, and we will be heard. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
It's a fall car fest, and Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown, says, yes, you can. Jeff says, yes, you can choose from over 1,000 vehicles in stock with no wait. Yes, you can still get low prices, leases, and big discounts. Yes, you can still get low interest financing. And Jeff always says, yes, you can have a real deal buying experience without the hassle. When the other dealers say, no, you can't, Jeff says, yes, you can. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown. Nobody treats you better. Jeep Adventure Days.
My wife was in an accident that changed our lives forever. She was in rehabilitation for years. She had to learn to walk again. She couldn't take care of herself. We couldn't afford a nurse. We were running out of options. One conversation with Pondley Hockey changed everything. They understood what we were going through and immediately helped us navigate the legal process. We can't thank them enough.
Pondley Hockey. Tell us your story.
The faces you know, the team you trust. The Delaware Valley's leading news program, Action News.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Before the break, I'm sure you heard, of the 4 quarterbacks from that 2020 class, which one do you pay and start the franchise with?
I'd probably go Burrow. I heard the discussion. I heard you with Herbert and Tone, talking about Jalen as well. Look, that's a good choice, man. You're not losing no matter who you end up with in that draft, right? I'd probably go Burrow. The only concern I would have is, can his knees hold up? The guy's taken a beating in his young career thus far with that offensive line. But I'd probably go him first. It's weird to think about what the order is going to be. I think Burrow takes precedent because he got to a Super Bowl. But this year could change things. I mean, obviously, like if the Eagles win a Super Bowl, who knows what ends up happening? The numbers that Tua is putting up, Jeff, are insane. I know you know this, but that very well could change the order of this also. And the problem Herbert has is I feel like he's at least sort of stuck, not necessarily his fault in mediocrity might be tough. It's a notch above with the Chargers. So I think that hurts his cause a little tiny bit.
It's the Chargers. I always call them a poverty franchise, and the Chargers fans agree with me on this. They don't like the ownership. They don't like the GM. They can't stand the offensive coordinator. They always will mention Joe Lombardi was the coordinator of the 08 Lions, and he was the guy who called plays for that team. And they just feel like Justin Herbert's holding them back. And every time I hear from Chargers country, can we please bring Shane Steichen back in some way, shape, or form?
Wow, that's interesting. I mean, Steichen has, I think, probably vaulted ahead of Gannon in the coaching love, simply because I think he's an offensive, the offensive mind usually gets the nod over the defensive mind. So it could be Steichen. Yeah. I mean, that's fair. Look, I don't think the Eagles defense played nearly as bad as everybody else seems to think on Sunday night, but maybe that's just me.
Well, you know what, Rob? It was the short field, right? Every time they scored, I remember I'm like writing my notes in the live blog for CBS and doing stuff like that. And next thing I know, I look up and there's an open wedge, and the opposing team's at the 40. I'm like, well, yeah, you are going to give up points. It's one of the strengths of the Eagles defense and has been all year, outside of the takeaways. But
yeah,
special team, especially kickoff coverage, has done a pretty good job at kind of pinning teams back. Like they start their 25. They're not doing that anymore.
No.
Taking the ball out because they see that's the one weakness in how you can get points off this team.
Jeff, I looked at it. So first, I'm sure you did this as well. First TD results, and was the result of it was a 41-yard return. Okay, I'm talking about Sunday night. Second one was the result of not getting the 4th and 1 at their own 36. So all of a sudden it's 14-13 at that point. Third touchdown, A.J. Brown fumbles. They tie it at 20. Okay. The final field goal they get to make it 40-33 is the result of a 55-yard return. So right there, you're accounting for 3 touchdowns and a field goal. Now, you can definitely make a case like, hey, the defense has got to stiffen up no matter what happens and get the job done. That's fine. That's fair. And it was way too easy for Jordan Love. And that part's fair too. So I'm not saying they didn't have their moments where they played poorly, but I thought overall, the reaction, it's what I thought it would be because people just want to hammer Jonathan Gannon. But there were a lot of circumstances that led to Green Bay getting points. And it'll be interesting to see this week what that looks like if the special teams isn't, throwing up all over themselves.
Yeah. So this was the second time I've ever seen Aaron Rodgers live. And I'm talking about Aaron Rodgers being Aaron Rodgers, not the backup to Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers. And he was excellent last year against Baltimore. Looked like an MVP. I actually thought he looked better last 2 nights ago against the Eagles. That wasn't the Aaron Rodgers you saw the first 11 weeks. That was vintage Aaron Rodgers. And John McGann's team, I thought, did a pretty good job at causing him to throw 2 interceptions and basically not letting him take over that game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember who he threw it to. It wasn't the Aaron Jones. It was the other one. Was it Randall Cobb?
Was it the Randall Cobb play?
He ripped that one, man. I mean, it looked like the thumb was feeling pretty good to me. And, he had Tanyan a couple times. I know he was open, over the middle. But no, I agree with you. I thought he looked good. And I don't know what's going to happen now. I don't know if we see him again. Is there really much point at 4 and 8 of him trying to gut through an oblique and the thumb that probably needs surgery? This feels like shutdown. I don't think he retires. People think he retires. I don't. But we very well could not see him the rest of the year. And if you're Green Bay, is it the worst thing to get a little sampling of what Jordan Love is?
Yeah. Here's the thing. I don't think Jordan Love's as bad as they make him out to be. he's no Aaron Rodgers. And I think that's the dilemma right now. And I think they were wondering that in the final years of Favre. Well,
Yeah.
this guy just took us to an NFC Championship game. He still can play, but we think this guy can play too. I think they definitely need to go that 2007 route where Aaron Rodgers played a little bit, and then you kind of knew, okay, this guy's going to be pretty good. I think I agree with you. And I know Rodgers will play, and I didn't think this was a bad quote at all. If we're still in it, I'm playing.
Right.
I think Ross Tucker was the guy who said, well, that's kind of putting on your team. I'm like, is it though? He's earned that right.
Yeah, right. To me, I think what Rodgers was trying to say, like, if we're mathematically eliminated, I'll probably get the surgery to speed up the process of me being able to come back. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Honestly, I think we're right now sort of looking for things with Aaron Rodgers and looking to crush him. He's an unlikable guy, so I understand, where people are coming from. But they're teetering. They're not mathematically eliminated, but I mean, let's be real about this. 4-8, they're not getting in, and they're not that good. Even when he plays, they're not that good. Defensively, they're not that good. They're just not a very good team, period.
Oh, yeah. And I put out a stat of how the Eagles could basically bury them, wearing the all-black uniforms. It was fitting. But no 4-8 team has made the playoffs as a wild card. There's only one that's done it in NFL history, and that was the 08 Chargers, and they needed to win their last 4 and beat the Broncos in Week 17. Remember when the Broncos collapsed with Jay Cutler?
Yes.
At the end of the that was the only team that's ever done it. So, and that Chargers team ended up winning a playoff game. But the Packers, there's no way. The NFC East is too good. The NFC West, no. But I'm sorry. It's right now. It's hard for me to say all 4 teams in the NFC East will. Hold on, I'm getting my words twisted here. It's easy for me to say right now all 4 teams in the NFC East will make the playoffs.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I want to see the Giants stabilized before I completely buy that. Like, it feels like maybe the lack of talent is starting to catch up to them a little bit. We'll see. Obviously, the Eagles get them twice, and they're going to be huge games. It's definitely not out of the question. I mean, you think about it. I don't know. We debated this a little bit on Sports Take yesterday, which is the better division, the AFC East or the NFC East. And it's darn close, man. I mean, it is really close. I mean, you get New England pulling up the back end of that. I might give a slight lean to the AFC East, but it's pretty close.
Here's the thing with the Giants and Washington, right? They play each other twice in the next 3 weeks. Washington's next 2 games are against the Giants. It's Giants by Giants.
Yeah.
Which
is weird.
Yeah. If they split, I think they both get in. If one of them sweeps, and I'm leaning toward Washington sweeping them, I think Washington gets in, and the Giants are the outside looking in.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I do. I think that's 100% fair. And I haven't gone through every game for either team, so I don't know exactly what it looks like for them the rest of the way. But yeah, certainly. I mean, look, the Giants played the Cowboys pretty tough Thanksgiving. All 3 games were pretty entertaining on Thanksgiving, which was great. But they've had so many injuries. They've overcome so much. We'll see. I think it's a tough spot for the Eagles, the game there. I definitely think that's going to be a tough spot. Look, the Eagles' schedule is not cake here. You get Tennessee coming off a loss. You get Dallas at Dallas, third of a back-to-back-to-back. You get the Giants twice. This is not a layup by any stretch.
No, and then when you look at the Cowboys' schedule, they get to play the gauntlet that we all know is the AFC South. So if you want to get on the Cowboys, don't play anybody, here's your chance. You got the thrilling Texans, the thrilling Jaguars, and I think the thrilling Colts are in there, and then they haven't played a team from the AFC South yet.
I know that their schedule is almost flipped to what the Eagles was. The Eagles had the easier, AFC South in some of those scheduled games earlier. Dallas gets it on the back end, but yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, Jeff. I'm sure you guys have already talked about the Monday night game. What a yawn that thing was. I mean,
you know what? I tried to ignore it. The only reason I watched the Monday night game is because of Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, I said this. We're on the same page. I just want to keep evaluating him and see what he is. Colts are very difficult to watch, but and I loved him at Pitt. There were 3-4 throws, and I know he did a nice job, and he engineered the game-winning drive and all that. But there were 3-4 throws that were there that you got to make. Part of that's being a rookie too. I don't know with him. I'm very much in the I don't know stage, and I think that's a tough place to be if you're Pittsburgh, because I think they're in the same place.
I think the problem is Pittsburgh doesn't have a good offensive line.
Yeah.
I always forget how they
Canada. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a terrible, terrible, terrible play caller.
Yep.
I don't think you're doing that man any service whatsoever. They have the receivers. I feel like their defense is still really good. But overall, yeah, you're right. It's hard to evaluate a guy like that. I think he needs another coach, and I think he needs a better offensive line. And I just don't know if that's going to happen by next year.
No, you can't completely overhaul the O-line. I think what you're going to see is Mike Tomlin's safe, which it's almost like the established college football coach. You're going to see some coordinators going bye-bye. Like you could see Canada go bye-bye. You could see some other changes made. Because let's face it, they have a whole new front office too. There's going to be some changes. I think their priority has to be in the offseason O-line. If you get that O-line straightened out, you have a good running back. You know, you had Pickens on the outside. You got some talent. You have a good tight end, Freiermuth. You know, you have some talent there that you could put around Pickett to really find out what he is. But you have to they need like 3 legit offensive linemen. How you you're going to be able to do all of that? No, but you got to start somewhere.
They were hoping the kid from Penn State was probably going to declare for the draft, and he said, by the way, Fashanu is a stud. I can't wait till that guy gets to the NFL. I think he was a first-round pick this year.
Yeah.
He might be top 10 next year.
I was surprised. But good for him. Good for the program, you know. But, he's the real deal for sure.
Yeah, and they have a good backup in Drew Shelton, who's a Downtown kid. So he played well as a freshman this year. But, by the way, how about Jeff Saturday last night at the end of that game?
And Aikman saying you might want to use these. There was like I almost thought that Matt Ryan would take things into his own hands, didn't you? Like I know you sort of have to go off what the coach is doing, but you could almost blame it on instinct. Oh, coach, I just I felt like I could take a timeout here. Is that what you mean? The timeout situation?
Oh yeah, the timeout situation.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe when I'm watching that. Like the amount of time that they let waste. It was mind blowing. And they. What did they wait till like 30 seconds before they finally used it?
It was like the Daniel Hackett on opening night this year.
Yeah, you literally legitimately wasted like 30-ish seconds, 25 seconds, which is unbelievable to me. Yeah, it was. I think that's kind of getting old real fast. All the see, you doubted me. The whole Jeff Saturday thing.
Yeah, it feels like it run its course, right? Okay, you caught the Raiders off guard, which, by the way, it's funny how the Raiders haven't lost since they got embarrassed by Jeff Saturday. Yeah. Then they play well in the first half against the Eagles, but you can only motivate a team for so long.
Yep. No, I agree. A talent eventually catches up, and it's not all his fault, but Matt Ryan's not the same guy anymore. He basically only has Pittman to throw to. There's not enough on the outside. That much is clear. You do have a good running back, but the offensive line is underachieved. I mean, they're exactly what their record says they are, that Colts team. They're just not, there's nothing special there whatsoever. And until they figure out quarterback, it's not going to matter who the coach is.
The Jaguars are a better team than them. They're going to be a better team than them next year too. But also, how about that? I don't want to say it on there, but how about, BB Doug basically deciding to live up to his Eagles reputation, say, you know what, we're going for it. I don't care.
You know why it's good? It's good on a number of reasons. It's sort of like what Dable did early in the year. I think it was against Tennessee. He was basically like, look, I believe in you guys. It makes sense from Doug's standpoint because they're not making the playoffs, and Doug knows that. He'd never say that publicly, but he knows that. Why not show these guys that you back them? Why not show these guys that you have that kind of guts? Because the players get behind that kind of stuff. The other thing is Trevor Lawrence is starting to play now, and it took a while, and it looked like, I don't know. But this month, he's been a lot better. And I think that was so good for his confidence. And I love it. I love it. Look, Staley sort of had to do it because if the Chargers would have lost, it was getting real slim whether or not they're going to be able to get in. So for him to get one was gigantic. It was kind of that was bore out of a different deal. He was going for the playoffs there. Doug was basically telling his team, like, this is who I am. Get on board, guys.
I like what Staley, he didn't say it like fully, but they asked him about the decision to go for 2 because they always ask him about his decisions. He goes, I got 10 back there.
Right.
It's easy. And I think Doug kind of used the same thing. Like, I got Trevor Lawrence here. Kid's balling. Mm-hmm. I'm going for it. Like, I'm going to try to ruin somebody's season. And he's doing a really good job.
I think he also probably views it as, we get to overtime. Baltimore's probably a better team than we are, even though we just came back on them. I don't know what my chances would be in overtime.
The game anyway.
Yeah, let me end this thing right now, man. Yeah, you're right. They did. What was Tucker? A yard and a half short? That guy, he is sick. He is unbelievable.
Doug was so upset that his defense actually gave Tucker the chance, even though it was 67 years. I'm like, I get it, but when he kicked it, I'm watching the press boxes link. I'm like, oh my God, did he?
That guy gets honestly 2 more yards on that final play. Tucker makes that thing. That dude is you are never done when that guy's back there as your kicker.
Ravens fans love my funny troll job of Tucker because they know I know how good he is. I call him the best kicker ever. I said, you guys know that's Justin Tucker's first missed field goal in the final 2 minutes of fourth quarter and overtime.
Yeah, I know. But you're right. I mean, that's more of a compliment than anything else. The guy's been around forever, and he finally missed one.
Yeah.
And by the way, missed it. Like, he didn't miss anything. That was a Hail Mary that you attempted by John Harbaugh.
A couple of the beat writers are like, just bravo, man. Like, come on. But yeah, it took a 67-yarder he missed. Like, I thought he actually hit the crossbar first and was going to go over, but
I'm watching it live, and it's dead on from the shot behind Tucker. You're like, oh, it's going, and then it just short, man. And that guy's unbelievable. He is.
Aren't they the hardest team to read in the NFL right now? The Ravens.
I continue to throw support behind them, and then they continue to disappoint me. Like, I'm sorry. If you can't finish games in the regular season against Jacksonville and some of the other teams they've lost to, how can I trust you in a playoff setting against a really legitimate team? It's very un-John Harbaugh-like. I'm surprised at their inability to finish games off.
Yeah, and the last 2 years it's been like this.
Yep.
And last year I pinned it, well, okay, they don't have their franchise quarterback. Lamar's not there. Well, now Lamar is there, and he hasn't been that great late in games. I think it's the weapons around him.
Yeah, I think it's some of it. I don't think his receivers are good enough generally. I also think that the defense is not what it's been in Baltimore. And I think the root of a lot of things that Harbaugh does is based on that. Like, he's made some decisions I haven't agreed with. And you see, I mean, Marcus Peters gets beat on that touchdown, and
terrible game Sunday.
Right. And he's blaming it's like, dude, come on, man, own it every once in a while. Don't point fingers. Don't yell at John Harbaugh. Don't yell at the referees. Sometimes it's you.
Exactly. Oh, by the way, the Ravens' best receiver might be Deshaun Jackson.
Well, yeah, which is, give me a break. I mean, you can only ask Mark Andrews to do so much, and that's really what it amounts to every week when he's healthy.
Yeah, and I know I'm in the camp. Okay, wait till Dobbins gets back, and wait till Gus Edwards gets back. But Gus Edwards was back on Sunday. But still, their offensive line's good. I think what they did for their franchise quarterback this year is beyond disgraceful. Not even getting him any receivers outside of Rashad Bateman. I
know. There are certain coaches that subscribe to, like, he'll be fine. He'll figure it out. He's that dynamic. Andy did it for a while, back in the day before T.O. Yeah. And it's like, no, like, these guys need help, man. And that's why I love what the Eagles did with A.J. Brown. It wasn't, they didn't just sit on their hands and say, well, Devontae Smith's going to get better and we'll upgrade here. And no, you go out there and you get the stud if you can get him. And that was a mistake by Baltimore.
So there's a guy on Twitter I talk to every once in a while. He's part of Bill's Mafia. He actually grew up in Western New York, and he was the neighbor to Sirianni, which is what I found out. And he said to me the day they traded for Brown, he goes, I love it. He said, I'm telling you, Nick's behind that move. He's such a competitive guy. And I'm like, oh, wow. Like, and then that's how I found out he was actually a neighbor to him. And, like, he's known Nick for a lot of years. And he goes, Nick is the perfect fit for them. Nick's going to do whatever they can to make sure they win football games. He looks at that team and just goes in that front office and says, hey, look, you know what? This is probably the guy. And, it's kind of crazy to think about, like, you just hear like a neighbor from him send that, but it does feel like that's Nick's like personality. Like, give me the best deck possible.
Yeah, at all costs, he is an uber. Even in that field, he's an uber competitor. You can see it, and it's funny, man. There's no filter with him in game. You saw it again this week. It's wild. I don't know if he's building a national reputation as a guy to dislike in other cities. I don't find him a dislikable guy, and maybe that's because I'm in Philadelphia, but I could see, I guess, where some of the annex, I guess, if for lack of a better word, would rub some people the wrong way.
From what I've gathered, Chiefs fans love him, Bills fans love him, Raiders fans adore him. But you're right. Like, the haters seem to be the Vikings, the Cowboys, teams that the Eagles are beaten this year. But it's funny from afar. Like, at least all the good teams, they're like, oh, man, like, give me this guy. Like, if we have a good coach, but give me this guy. This guy just beats you and lets you know about it.
Well, I think it's boring. Like, most of it, he's reacting. I think this past week was when they Amos tried to cut Lane Johnson. I think Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's what spurred that little
That was the play.
outburst. Okay. So I think it's usually bore out of something. Like, we know what happened in Indianapolis. He was ticked off about Frank Reich and all that, which whatever. I didn't care, but people but this one was out of that. He's not usually just challenging like the other coach. Like, I just love it. Like, even in a preseason game when Jalen got late hit against the Jets, he's like calling out Robert Saleh. You don't see that much in the NFL. It's pretty unique.
He just reminds me of a guy, like, he's worked his way up the ranks to get his shot, and everybody's just treated him as kind of like a Nick Foles, an underdog, and now he's winning. I mean, what? He's won. I'm trying to think of the exact stat.
Well,
I
think of it. They were 2-5
or something in his last 20, something like that.
All right, so you're 10-1, and they were 2-5 last year. So he went 7. So he's 17-4, 7. Yeah. 17-7, something like that.
Yeah, 17-7 is the head coach, but since the 2-5 start, what is he? He's what, like 7?
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what he is since that start. I think.
Yeah. Since the 2-5 start, he's 17-3.
17-3. Okay, it's crazy. I mean, it really is remarkable what he's been able to do. And I know everything's going to come. We've already gotten to the point with him where it's like, well, talk to me about when it's the playoffs. Like, okay, he's in his second year. I mean, it's an amazing transformation. Jeff, we tend to forget, what this looked like. You had a team that was 4-11-1 in Doug's last year. You didn't think he had a quarterback. You didn't think he had any weapons. I mean, you went from that to this in a hurry. Even by NFL standards, where you can fix things pretty quickly. This has been an unbelievable turnaround.
It was like overnight too. Like, all of a sudden he decides, you know what? I'm not calling plays anymore. I don't like it for whatever reason is. I want to delegate everything. And Shane Steichen deserves to be a head coach someday anyway. I'm just going to give it to him. And I love, by the way, I don't know if you're on Twitter a lot, Rob, but have you seen the narrative about the Eagles offense? What Cowboys fans are saying right now about
what the gist is? What it's only Jalen's legs? Is that what the gist is?
Well, that's one of them. And you can't sustain this. We all know this offense. You can't sustain. You can't run for 360 yards in the playoffs. I'm like, okay, that's great. The Eagles still have a top 5 passing offense. Did you?
That to me is just there's just holes all completely in that theory, because they can beat you a lot of different ways. I mean, the passing game with AJ Brown, like AJ Brown's been a little bit off. He's been like a tick off, right? We know that he wasn't feeling well. You saw the eye; he looked like some kind of.
I have front row seat to that eye.
Yeah, that's
over, and it is. I am telling you, if you wanted a shot of bloodshot red, that was it.
Yeah, it honestly looked like something out of a movie, right? So he's not completely right. They're without Goddard, which has to be at least discussed at some level. So once you get Goddard back, AJ's feeling like himself. You tell me this team can't hurt you through the air? Please stop. I mean, it's just not true. It's not the case. They had a little blip. Kind of that stretch with the Texans and the Colts, or, whatever, those couple games where they weren't lighting it up offensively through the air. But I think what I like about the Eagles' approach, and Steichen and Sirianni, whomever you want to give credit to, is they'll take whatever the other team's giving them and they'll exploit a weakness. And if the other team can't stop the run like Green Bay, then guess what? We're going to hammer you. We're not going to try and get too cute and throw it anyway, despite that. And or if a team can't stop the pass, they'll do the same thing. So I don't think that's the case. I think it's just that's an easy thing to kind of jump on, but it's not accurate.
Oh yeah, and I just like how in Dallas they're still harping off this Vikings win. I'm like, I hate to tell you guys, you're better than them. Like, you always were better than them, just like the Eagles were always better than them. Like, you know why you're comparing yourself to the Eagles? Because deep down you probably can't beat them.
Well, look, we all know that. Here's the thing. I think that Christmas Eve game is a really tough spot for the Eagles, even if that were to be a loss. I don't think that's more reflective of the Cowboys are better. I think it's just ebb and flow of a season. I'm not trying to set up some excuse if the Eagles. I'm just saying. I'm telling you right now. I think that's a tough spot. It's a revenge game. Dak's back. It's on the road for the third of a back-to-back. I think for a lot of reasons it sets up difficult for the Eagles. If they lose that game, I wouldn't be afraid if I faced the Cowboys again in the playoffs, especially at Lincoln Financial Field.
Yeah, but that's the other thing. Like, people seem to forget about all this. Dallas isn't getting a home game if the Eagles win the division. They're going to go on the road.
They're going to start off on the road against the Bucs. Just the way the system works, because the Bucs are going to be the division winner in that crap division. It's just the way it's going to work.
Oh, by the way, you beat them, you're probably going to have to play. If one of the lower seed teams wins, like, and we all know Washington could beat a good team.
Yeah.
You're probably going to have to play the 49ers or
Yep.
the Vikings again.
Yeah, their road is not easy. That's why this is so critical for the Eagles to keep stacking these wins here. I mean, we know what a difference it is to play at Lincoln Financial Field, but also there's only one bye, man. The fact that you get one less game is huge.
I think people seem to forget that too. Like, there's only one bye, and the Eagles and Chiefs are set up for it. I think that's why Buffalo fans are so disappointed. They thought they were going to get home field advantage, and they're fighting for a division against a really good Miami team right now.
Yeah, Buffalo, when you watch them, they're unbelievably talented and good, but there is a little element of like shooting themselves in the foot every single week. Some of it's Josh Allen, some of it's elsewhere. I'd be a little worried if I were Sean McDermott. There's just feels like there's a little bit of a sort of a thrill-seeking, dangerous personality there. And you don't see that same thing with the Chiefs. Chiefs are generally able to just take care of their business.
Yeah. What's tough for me with the Bills is, and I know they hate the one-score games narrative. I'm like, you guys do realize why you lose the one-score games, right? It's all of a sudden your quarterback can't make a throw to a wide open receiver in the end zone, or he forgets to spike the ball, or they forget to get out of balance, or they take it. It's like, it's just stupid things like that a team that good shouldn't be having.
Yeah, he has minor little brain farts here and there, which I thought he was past going into this year. And even early in the year, I thought he was past. But they still do creep up. He's got a tiny little bit of Wentz in him, where there's a hero ball mentality that's slightly. He'll make 12 insane plays, and then there's one where you're like, you've really tried to fit that in there between three defenders. Like, come on, Josh. There's still that little tiny piece of him there, and they got to beat it out of him, man. Because if they don't, it could bite him in the playoffs for sure.
By the way, Rob, before I let you go here, AJ Brown, how many yards and touchdowns is he getting this week?
Oh, he's going to be on a mission. I mean, he is going to be on a mission. And I think what I like about Steichen and Sirianni is I think they're going to feed him early. Like, I think that is going to be an immediate thing where you're getting the ball in his hands because they know what he's going to be like this week. I mean, I don't know if it'll come out like it didn't come out necessarily about Sirianni just wanting to go scorched earth on the Colts. But trust me, I'm with you. If I'm a betting man, I'm getting involved in a lot of AJ Brown prop bets.
I'll tell you what, he played nice Monday morning, Sunday night, and the Monday morning. I don't know if he's going to do that this week. And it may not come from his end either, because I feel like down there, they make a much bigger deal of what it is. They're saying, oh, Traylon Burks worked extra receiving yards at AJ Brown the last 2 weeks. I'm like, okay, let's play the whole year.
Yeah. No. Well, they're another team that didn't give their quarterback a lot of help as far as that went. Like, you're going to trade AJ Brown, and I think Traylon Burks is coming on. Don't get me wrong, but that's all. You're not going to do much else. Not in terms of a real legit veteran. Robert Woods is solid. Robert Woods is coming off a big time injury too. They didn't do enough to help Tannehill out. He needs help.
Yeah, and here's the thing with Tannehill. I don't think he's a bad quarterback at all.
Yeah, no, he's fine. He's fine. He gets kind of a bad rap. I mean, look, their bread's buttered with Derrick Henry, but he's fine. But you just need to give him more.
What do you think about this Titans defense? Personally, I think it's one of the best in the league.
Oh, they're good. They're good and they're well coached. Look, Vrabel's a good coach. I know they haven't. They were the 1 seed last year. Like, they had 12 wins last year, and they get bounced early. I get it. And people are kind of sick of them a little bit, I guess, whatever. But this is not going to be easy. I wish they won last week. I thought Cincy would win that game. It was a funky line, which told me to grab Cincinnati. But I think this is a real tough game for the Eagles.
Yeah, and it's weird, too, the narrative of all this. So I go on Cincinnati's the Bengals like flagship pregame show. They have one during the bye week. They were so negative about that Bengals team. They're like,
really?
We're not going to make the playoffs, and that 0-2 start's going to kill us. We're only 5-3. And I'm like, guys, calm down. You beat Tennessee, you're going to be in great shape. Now they might win the division. Yeah,
I mean, look, we all know it's really hard coming back that next year after you lose the Super Bowl. It's really hard. And they're still young. Yeah, that's a little harsh for me. I think Cincinnati absolutely is a playoff team, and they're a dangerous out, man, when they get in. I'm telling you. And they're getting Chase back likely this week. Yeah, look out.
Yeah, I really like that team a lot. Even when they were 0-2, I'm like, okay, I think they're going to be fine because they do have Joe Burrow. They still have their core guy. And when they lost Chase, I don't even think they lost a game, or they might have lost one game since they lost Chase.
Well, they have great depth at that position. Not that you ever want to lose Jamar Chase, somebody that dynamic, but when you have T. Higgins and Boyd and that crew, you got some depth there.
Doesn't it feel like who's this game this week a prove a game for? The Chiefs or the Bengals?
I'd still say the Bengals. Yeah, I'd still say I mean, are you saying because of the way it went in the playoffs last year?
Between that and the Chiefs, if they win that game, they're probably getting home field advantage.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, it's a huge – if Kansas City gets that from a psyche standpoint, all right, we put them away. Yeah, and they set themselves up nice for the playoffs. Yeah, there's a couple of really good games this week. I'm excited for this card this week. Week 13 sets up to be good.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, Chiefs-Bengals is on after Eagles-Titans.
Is it the 4 o'clock? I didn't check the time, honestly.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I didn't either. I haven't gone into week 13 yet. I'm still in week 12.
I know. It's like Wednesday is usually my turnover when I kind of get – I'm looking at it as we speak. Let me see. That's the 4:25. Yeah, the Eagles are 1. That's 4:25. The night game, Colts and Cowboys is the night game.
Come on.
Monday's not great either, man. It's New Orleans and Tampa. So enjoy
the Colts in prime time because they're playing Dallas.
It's because they're playing Dallas.
Yeah,
it's 100% because they're playing Dallas. Yeah, I mean it's Dallas Sunday. It's Brady Monday. It's as simple as that. That equals ratings for the network.
By the way, we are going to find out today if Eagles Giants is getting flexed. I heard it's getting flexed, but I know that they are not a fan of Russell Wilson and the Broncos.
No, it's 100% getting flexed. 100%. I mean, enjoy for those of us who really like the 1 o'clocks. Savor this Sunday.
Yeah, I'm getting tired of the prime time, and I gotta go to New York for that game. I don't know how I'm gonna do this show the next morning.
Oh well, yeah, I hear you, man. Yes, I hear you. Those of us in the business don't love the night games.
We definitely do.
I'm not breaking news here.
Yeah, give me a 4:25 game any day of the week.
I can live with a 4:25 for sure. I mean, preference is 1, but I can live with 4:25.
Exactly. Once again, Rob, I appreciate you coming on. I'll have to have you on again in a couple of weeks, and maybe by then the Eagles. The way the NFC is shaping up, they might have the division clinch.
Could clinch at least a playoff spot this week with some other help.
It need a lot to happen, but it can happen.
Yep, absolutely, Jeff. My pleasure, man.
That sounds great. Thanks for coming on, Rob.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so we got about a minute here, I guess. Tony didn't give me the single yet, the bat single, but yeah, you know what? It is funny when you think about who you want of that 2020 quarterback class to be like, this is the guy I would make my franchise quarterback. I'll tell you what, guys, I know I picked Herbert. I can make a case for any of these guys, especially Jalen Hurts. Like, you can win with Jalen Hurts. That's clear as day. You can win with him. You can win a lot of games with him. And he's elite. Like, Jalen Hurts is top 5 quarterback in this league for a reason. I would just go Herbert just based on the pure arm talent. I think he can match Mahomes pound for pound when he has that personnel around him. Like, are we putting Justin Herbert with Shane Steichen again? Because I'll tell you what, Shane Steichen is Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert loves Shane Steichen. He loved him his year in LA. That was huge. That was huge for him. And give him Nick Sirianni too. And how the Eagles operate. If you're giving me the Eagles front office with a guy like that, give me him. That's part of the reason why I knew Jalen Hurts was going to be good. I didn't think he'd be top 5 good, but I knew the Eagles could win with Jalen Hurts, and they're clearly proven that. And Jalen Hurts has been – look, I had high expectations for him just because I really liked him in Alabama and Oklahoma, but he's far exceeded them, man. He's a really good quarterback. And with that, we are going to transition to Birds 365. Joe McDonald and John McMullen. Once again, this is Good Morning MC East. My name is Jeff Kerr. You can read my stuff on CBSSports.com. I had a ton of stuff from the game. On Sunday night. I had an article on A.J. Brown, Reed Blankenship of all people. Yes, Reed Blankenship. He had a good game Sunday night. We talked about him enough. And, of course, how well Jalen Hurts played. So, First 365 is up next. Have a good day, guys.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan.